The Cowboys and 49ers have a great playoff history. Going to highlight a few of the outstanding moments in their playoff rivalry. Of course, the most famous is the 1981 NFC Championship game known as the Catch Game. But San Francisco and Dallas had a real playoff rivalry even before that 1981 NFC Championship game. And the games in the 1990s were outstanding. This playoff rivalry goes all the way back to the very first NFC Championship game, the 1970 NFC Championship game. That game was played at Kezar Stadium in San Francisco. A third quarter play involving two borderline Hall of Famers, 49ers quarterback John Brodie and Cowboys linebacker Leroy Jordan, was pivotal. Leroy Jordan intercepted a John Brodie pass at San Francisco's 13-yard line. Cowboys running back Dwayne Thomas scored a touchdown on the next play. That put the Cowboys ahead 10-3. The 49ers got into Cowboys territory on the next possession, but this time Hall of Fame cornerback Mel Renfro intercepted a John Brodie pass. Dallas running back Walt Garrison scored a touchdown following that interception to make it 17-3 Cowboys. They won 17-10 to earn a trip to Super Bowl V against the Colts. Upton Bell, who you heard earlier on the show, was director of player personnel for the Colts, and Baltimore beat Dallas on a last-second field goal in Super Bowl V. The next year, 1971, also came down to Dallas and San Francisco in the NFC Championship game. The 49ers and Cowboys played each other in the first two NFC Championship games. There's a bit of trivia there for you. The 1971 NFC Championship game was played in Dallas, and the Cowboys defeated the 49ers for the second year in a row, and the Cowboys won Super Bowl VI against the Miami Dolphins. Now, in 1972, the Cowboys and 49ers faced each other again in the playoffs for the third year in a row, this time in the divisional round. This game has been forgotten by many because it frankly hasn't been documented well. There isn't as much footage of this game, but really it is an NFL classic. Roger Staubach injured his shoulder in the preseason and missed the vast majority of the 1972 regular season. So Craig Morton started every regular season game that year for the Cowboys. In the divisional playoff game, Morton threw two first-half interceptions, and the 49ers built a 21-3 lead in the second quarter. San Francisco led 28-13 in the third quarter, and Cowboys head coach Tom Landry sent Roger Staubach into the game. But Dallas continued to stall until they kicked a field goal with about 6 minutes left, and the 49ers led 28-16 at that point. But San Francisco couldn't run out the clock, and with 2:02 left, the Cowboys started on their own 45, trailing by 12 points. In less than 30 seconds, Staubach drove them to San Francisco's 20, and the Cowboys scored on the next play, and it was 28-23 with 90 seconds remaining in the game. San Francisco's home crowd grew silent, then extremely tense after the Cowboys recovered the onside kick. Roger Staubach scrambled for 21 yards on the next play, and soon afterwards, he hit Ron Sellers for a touchdown to give Dallas a 30-28 lead. 2 touchdowns in just over a minute. The 49ers tried to rally. A John Brodie completion got them to the Cowboys' 30-yard line, but an offensive holding penalty wiped the play away. And with it went San Francisco's chances. Dallas won 30-28 on the same day as the Immaculate Reception. Imagine watching the playoffs on that day. It was the first big playoff comeback of Roger Staubach's career and the third straight season that the Cowboys knocked the 49ers out of the playoffs. So by the time Dallas and San Francisco met for the 1981 NFC Championship game, that playoff rivalry already had real history. And by 1981, the Cowboys were known as America's team. Dallas went to 5 Super Bowls in the 1970s and won 2 of them. The San Francisco 49ers didn't have the same resume. In fact, the 49ers finished 2-14 in 1979 and also had a losing record in 1980, which were their first 2 seasons under new head coach Bill Walsh. San Francisco leaped from those losing records to a sparkling 13-3 record in 1981, and that gained them home field advantage throughout the playoffs. A lot of rain fell upon San Francisco in the week leading up to the 1981 NFC Championship game. There were concerns about the playing field at Candlestick Park, and groundskeeper extraordinaire George Toma was brought in. George Toma shared some amazing stories of getting Candlestick Park ready for the playoffs on the Game Before the Money podcast. You can hear that in episode 60 of the Game Before the Money podcast. The 1981 NFC Championship game was a thrilling back-and-forth game. Dallas had a 17-14 lead at halftime. San Francisco took the lead back in the third quarter. Then the Cowboys took the lead again late in the fourth quarter. And then Joe Montana drove the 49ers inside the Cowboys 20 with less than a minute left. He rolled to his right and threw off balance into the end zone, and Dwight Clark jumped in the air and caught what turned out to be the game-winning score. It almost wasn't the game-winning score, however, as legendary Dallas receiver Drew Pearson caught a long pass from quarterback Danny White on Dallas's ensuing possession. Pearson nearly scored on the play, but was brought down from behind. The big play stunned the crowd, and Dallas was knocking on the door looking for a game-winning field goal, but that 49er pass rush rose to the occasion. That's what I mean by late pass rush. San Francisco forced a fumble, recovered, and preserved the history of the catch. But even that isn't the end of this great playoff rivalry. The Cowboys and 49ers played each other again in the 1990s, this time in 3 straight NFC Championship games. And as amazing as the catch game was, to me, the 1990s were really the golden era of this playoff rivalry, because these really were the 2 best teams in football at the time. Those 3 straight NFC Championship games were hard-fought, physical games, a lot of emotion, and a lot of greatness. Pro football at its best. Dallas won the first 2 and then trounced Buffalo in 2 straight Super Bowls. There was a lot of buildup to the 3rd straight NFC Championship game between these 2 teams. Dallas was vying for an unprecedented 3rd straight Super Bowl victory. San Francisco returned an interception for a touchdown early in the game for a quick 7-0 lead, and by the end of the first quarter, the 49ers led 21-0 at home. Champions do not fall easily, however, and the Cowboys soon scored on a long Aikman to Irvin touchdown on a 3rd and 23. With about 6 minutes left in the game, the 49ers led 38-28. Troy Aikman threw deep to Michael Irvin, and Deion Sanders bumped Irvin. The Cowboys wanted pass interference called and didn't get it. The 49ers won that game and the Super Bowl. So that just heated up this rivalry even a little bit more. If you get a chance to watch that game or the highlights of that game, the 1994 NFC Championship game, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's tremendous football. Any of those 3 NFC Championship games make for superb viewing, even though the scores weren't necessarily that close. Last year, the Cowboys and 49ers renewed that playoff rivalry 40 years after the catch game. Dallas trailed 23-7 going into the fourth quarter, but scored 10 fourth quarter points for a chance to put together a game-winning drive. With 14 seconds left, Dak Prescott ran up the middle for 17 yards. He rushed to spike the ball to stop the clock, but couldn't get the snap off in time. And the 49ers won 23-17 yet another exciting finish in what has turned out to be one of the great NFL rivalries in the playoffs. I'm Jackson Michael. Thank you for listening to The Game Before the Money. Visit thegamebeforethemoney.com. Tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central. Also check out the Game Before the Money podcast, available on all major podcast apps.